I still remember that morning as if it happened yesterday. The sunlight streamed gently through my curtains, and for the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. My wife, Clara, had gone to visit our daughter in another state, so I was alone in the house. I brewed myself a cup of coffee, stepped out onto the porch, and inhaled deeply. This old house had been in my family for generations, and every brick carried memories of love, laughter, and struggle, but peace never lasts long when Karen is your neighbor. Karen was one of those women who always had to be in control. She acted like the whole neighborhood belonged to her. Her voice carried through the street every morning, barking at delivery drivers, lecturing teenagers, even scolding grown men about rules no one but she seemed to know existed that morning. I noticed something odd. My back door was slightly ajar. I froze. I knew I had locked it the night before. My heart raced, and for a moment I thought maybe I had forgotten, but deep down, something told me otherwise. I stepped cautiously inside. The sound of footsteps echoed through my hallway. "Who's there?" I demanded, gripping the old walking stick my father had left behind. Then I saw her, Karen, standing right in my living room, her hands on her hips as if she belonged there. "What are you doing in my house?" I shouted, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. Karen turned slowly, a smirk spreading across her face. "Your house? Oh no, sweetheart. This property doesn't belong to you. It's mine. Always has been." I felt my knees weaken. "What nonsense are you talking about? My family has owned this place for over 60 years. Karen's eyes glinted with a strange satisfaction. "Not anymore. I found the original deed, and it proves this house is part of my property line. You're trespassing." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "This is madness," I whispered. But Karen didn't stop. She began walking around, touching the furniture, examining the photographs on the wall as though she were inspecting her new prize. "You've decorated it nicely," she said casually. "But don't worry, I'll make changes. I've always thought this house deserved better." My hands trembled with rage. "Get out, Karen, right now, or I'll call the police." She turned back to me, her smirk deepening. "Go ahead, call them. By the time they get here, I'll have the paperwork ready. You'll be the one leaving." For a moment, the silence between us was deafening. My heart pounded in my chest. I realized then that this wasn't just another one of Karen's petty neighborhood squabbles. This was war. As she strutted toward the door, she threw one last dagger over her shoulder. "Enjoy your last days here, because soon this house will be mine." And just like that, she left me standing there, stunned, furious, and terrified that she might actually have a plan to take away the only thing I had left of my parents. My childhood, my life. I sank onto the couch, my chest heavy. "God help me," I whispered. But deep down, I knew one thing. If Karen wanted a fight, she had just picked the wrong man. The next morning, I barely slept. Every creak of the house, every rustle of the trees outside made me think Karen had come back. I was sipping cold coffee when a loud knock rattled my front door. I opened it, tanned. There she was, Karen, dressed in her sharpest suit, clutching a folder stuffed with papers. Behind her stood two of her friends, neighbors who had always followed her like sheep. "Good morning, trespasser," Karen said smugly. "I thought I'd give you the courtesy of an official notice before I file the paperwork in court." I stared at her in disbelief. "Karen, you can't be serious. You broke into my home yesterday. Do you realize how insane this is?" Her eyes narrowed. "Insane? No, this is justice. You've been squatting on my property for decades. I'm finally correcting history." She shoved the folder into my hands. Inside were faded documents, photocopies of land maps, and a letter addressed to her grandfather. She must have dug them out of some dusty attic. "Where did you even get this?" I demanded. "Family archives," she replied proudly. "And it's all the proof I need." "You should start packing." My blood boiled. "This doesn't prove anything. My father worked his whole life to pay off this house. His name is on the deed. I have every legal right to be here," but Karen only tilted her head, feigning pity. Oh, how sad. Still clinging to stories? Don't worry, once I'm done with the court, you won't have a leg to stand on. Her friends chuckled behind her. One of them whispered loudly enough for me to hear, "Imagine. Living in a stolen house all these years? Shameful." The humiliation stung worse than the threat. Neighbors I had barbecued with, shared holidays with, were now looking at me as though I were some thief. I slammed the door in her face, my hands shaking. I leaned against it, my chest tightening. Memories flooded my mind, my father building the porch with his bare hands. My mother planting her roses by the window, my kids running barefoot across the creaking floors. This house wasn't just wood and brick. It was our story that evening. I called my daughter Emily, her voice warm and steady. It's the anchor I needed. "Dad, don't you let that woman scare you," she said firmly. "If Mom were here, she'd fight with everything she had. And you've got me. I'll call my friend, he's a lawyer. We'll sort this out." Tears burned my eyes. "I don't want you caught up in this mess, sweetheart." "You have your own life, Dad," she said softly. "You are my life. This house is our family's heart. Don't let Karen take it from us." Double quotes her words gave me strength. For the first time since Karen's invasion, I felt a flicker of hope, but Karen wasn't done. The very next day, I came home from the grocery store and nearly dropped the bags in shock. A bright red sign was nailed to my front gate. Notice: property under dispute, trespassers will be prosecuted, and underneath, scrawled in bold black marker, signed, future owner Karen. I tore it down, fury burning through me, but the damage was already done. Curious neighbors peeked from their windows, some even snapping photos. Gossip spread like wildfire. By evening, half the street was whispering about the old man living on stolen land. I sat on my porch that night, staring at the stars, feeling more alone than ever. My chest ached with anger and despair. Then, as if the universe wanted to test me further, Karen marched by, waving at me like I was some squatter. "Enjoy the porch while you can," she called out. "Next week, I'll be sipping lemonade right where you're sitting." Her laughter echoed down the street. I gripped the armrest so hard my knuckles turned white, and in that moment I made a vow. I would fight her with everything I had lost, truth, and every ounce of strength left in me, because this wasn't just about a house. This was about dignity, legacy, and the love of a family that refused to be erased. The day of the first court hearing arrived like a storm. My daughter Emily flew in the night before. She walked beside me as we entered the courthouse, her arm linked with mine, her presence giving me the courage I desperately needed. Across the room sat Karen. She was dressed in a bold red jacket, her hair tied so tightly it looked like she hadn't blinked in days. Her smug smile stretched wider when she saw me. "Don't look at her, Dad," Emily whispered. "She feeds on that." We sat down. Karen's lawyer stood up, waving a stack of old maps and letters. "Ladies and gentlemen, this house has always been part of my client's property. Mr. Harris," he gestured at me, "has been occupying land that never belonged to him. Today, we reclaim what is rightfully hers." My chest tightened, but Emily's lawyer stood tall. "Your Honor, these documents are outdated and irrelevant. The current deed is clear. This house has belonged to the Harris family for decades. My client isn't a trespasser. He is the rightful owner." I watched the judge's expression carefully. No reaction, just a stony face as he scribbled notes. When it was my turn to speak, my voice trembled. "This house, it isn't just walls and windows. My father built it with his bare hands. My mother filled it with love. My wife and I raised our children here. To say this isn't mine, it's like saying my life doesn't exist." Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please. Sentimental speeches won't change the law. That house is mine, and he knows it." Her words cut deep, and for the first time I felt my spirit crack. The hearing ended without resolution. The judge scheduled another date, and Karen pranced out of the courtroom as though victory was already hers. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the silent walls. Emily squeezed my hand. "Don't give up, Dad. We'll prove her wrong." But the next morning, things got worse. I woke up to find spray paint across my garage door. Thief. My mailbox had been ripped out and tossed onto the lawn. And there, standing at the curb with her little gang of followers, was Karen smiling like the devil herself. "Better start packing, old man," she shouted. The whole neighborhood knows the truth now. I wanted to scream, to march across the street and unleash every ounce of anger boiling inside me. But Emily stepped outside, her voice shaking with fury. "You should be ashamed, Karen. You don't just want a house, you want to destroy a man's life. What kind of person does that?" Karen sneered. "A winner." For a moment, I thought Emily was going to lunge at her, but I pulled her back. "She wants us to lose control," I whispered. That's her game, but inside, I was breaking. The neighbors avoided me now. Some whispered when I walked by. Others crossed the street to avoid eye contact. Even my closest friend, Tom, who used to stop by every evening, suddenly had excuses not to talk. One evening I sat alone on the porch, staring at the roses my mother had planted. My eyes blurred with tears. "I can't do this," I muttered. "Maybe Karen's right. Maybe I should just leave." Emily knelt beside me, gripping my shoulders. "Dad, listen to me. She doesn't want the house, she wants to crush you. If you give in, she wins. But if you fight, even if it's hard, you keep our family's honor alive." Her words lit something inside me. A small flame, but enough to push back the darkness. The next court date came. This time, our lawyer presented something new, a certified copy of the most recent deed, notarized and signed. He laid it gently on the judge's desk like a trump card. Karen's face twisted in shock. She slammed her hand on the table. "That's fake. It has to be." But the judge raised a hand. "Order. This document is official and binding. Until proven otherwise, it establishes ownership under Mr. Harris." For the first time in weeks, I saw Karen's confidence falter. Yet as I walked out of that courtroom, I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to accept defeat, and I was right. That very night I heard glass shatter in the kitchen. I rushed downstairs, and there she was again, Karen, inside my home. This time, she wasn't smirking. Her face was twisted with pure rage. This house should be mine. She screamed, grabbing one of the framed photos from the wall and hurling it to the floor. The glass shattered. The photo of my parents splintered into pieces. I froze, my heart breaking as I stared at the shards. "Get out, Karen," I said, my voice low and trembling, but she didn't. She raised her arm. "Ready to smash another photo?" That's when I grabbed the phone and dialed. 911. "What's your emergency?" "My neighbor has broken into my home. I need help now. Asterisk." The sound of sirens cut through the night like a blade. Karen froze, her wild eyes darting to the window. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw fear flash across her face. Red and blue lights washed over the living room walls as two police officers stormed. "Inside, ma'am, put the frame down." One barked. Karen hesitated, then dropped the photo onto the shattered glass at her feet. She lifted her chin defiantly. "You don't understand. This house belongs to me. He's the intruder." The officer turned to me. "Sir, is this your residence?" My hands shook as I held out the official deed Emily's lawyer had provided. "Yes, officer. This is my home." She broke in again. The officer scanned the document, then looked at Karen. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, destruction of property, and harassment." Karen's face drained of color. "No, you don't get it. That house was supposed to be mine. It is mine." The officers cuffed her hands behind her back as she kicked and screamed, her voice echoing into the night. "You'll regret this. You'll all regret this." But for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt release. Emily rushed to my side, wrapping her arms around me. I clutched her like a lifeline, tears streaming down my face. The weight of weak snow. Years of Karen's torment finally lifted as I watched her being taken away. The next morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. Word spread quickly that Karen had been arrested. Some neighbors came over sheepishly, apologizing for believing her lies. "Sorry, George," one muttered. "She had us convinced." We should have known better. I didn't say much. I just nodded. The wounds she left weren't just on my house, they were on my heart. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. But healing began slowly. Emily stayed with me for a few days, helping clean up the mess Karen left behind. As we picked shards of glass from the carpet, she found the broken photo of my parents. The frame was ruined, but the picture itself could be saved. She carefully placed it on the mantel, smiling softly. "See, Dad? Some things may break. What really matters can always be restored." Her words pierced me with their truth. Weeks later, I attended Karen's court sentencing. She sat there, no longer smug, no longer powerful, just small. The judge read her charges: trespassing, property damage, harassment, and falsifying claims. She was fined heavily, given community service, barred from contacting me again. When the gavel struck, I felt no triumph, only sorrow. As she was led away, Karen glanced back at me, her eyes full of something I'd never seen before: regret. Maybe she finally realized what her obsession had cost her. On the drive home, Emily asked, "Do you feel better now that it's over?" I thought for a long moment before answering. Better? Yes, but also sad, because hate like hers, it destroys more than just walls and windows. It destroys people, and I don't ever want to carry that kind of poison in my heart. Emily squeezed my hand. "That's why you're stronger than her dad." That evening, I sat on the porch where everything had started. The sun dipped low, casting golden light over the roses my mother planted decades ago. The house creaked softly, like an old friend sighing with relief. I whispered into the quiet, "We made it. We're still standing." Tears filled my eyes, not from pain this time, but from gratitude for family, for truth, and for the strength to endure. I realized then that this story wasn't about a house. It was about love, legacy, and the courage to fight for what matters most. And if Karen taught me anything, it's this: people may try to take what you have, but they can never take who you are unless you let them. So, to anyone listening, remember this: protect your home, yes, but above all, protect your heart, because in the end, love is the only thing worth fighting for. Asterisk.